So, guys, D-Day is looming for Southampton. Southampton, who won a playoff final at the end of the last season in the Sky Bet Championship, an unlikely victory at Wembley against the promotion favourites Leeds United, which Southampton came out on top 1-0 at Wembley to secure promotion straight back to the Premier League at the first attempt. Southampton were promoted under Russell Martin, who brought Southampton back from the Championship straight back up to the Premier League at the first attempt. Southampton fans, I fear for you. I feared for you the day you joined us back in the Premier League. And I'm not surprised Southampton's relegation is pretty much nailed on by Thursday night. I think the way Southampton have been as a football club, clearly Southampton were not ready for a return to the Premier League. You could tell by their unlikely win at Wembley that Southampton's promotion final win against Leeds United was nothing more than pure luck. Southampton really should not be in the Premier League this season. Their season has been a nightmare from day number one. And under Russell Martin, an inexperienced Premier League manager, when you come up to the top flight and the top division of English League football, you are going to get found out massively. And obviously, Southampton fans praised and were pleased that Russell Martin brought them back to the Premier League. But look at the way Southampton are now. They are at the bottom on the Premier League. They're on the lowest points tally since the days of Derby County, which was way back in the 2007 to the 2008 season. Southampton have broke all kinds of Premier League records this season in a negative aspect. And the mess that Southampton find themselves in, I'm not surprised. Southampton were clearly not ready. They were clearly not prepared. And I think that playoff final win against Leeds was a bad omen for them, because I don't think a lot of Southampton fans and supporters expected them to be back in the Premier League. I think that unlikely victory that day in the promotion final at Wembley was a day to remember for Southampton fans, because I think going into that playoff final game, I don't think realistically Southampton fans expected to beat Leeds. I think realistically we all knew on the day that by chance that Leeds would beat Southampton and Leeds would be here in the Premier League with us. So I think Southampton winning that playoff final was a massive, massive bit of pure luck for them, because no one expected it to happen. They were second favourites to win that game. And by the amount of chances that Leeds created against Southampton in that playoff final, Leeds should have won. Leeds United should have won that playoff final, and they should have beaten Southampton. And the situation Southampton are in is now a really, really grim one. I think a step closer to relegation will be confirmed by a defeat at Old Trafford on Thursday night. I think the damage, for a Southampton point of view, the damage is already done. There's no escaping the turmoil and the demise that Southampton are going in. It's going to be a massive step backwards for that football club, because a club like Southampton really are too good to compete in the Championship. And the problem is, when you come up from the Championship to the Premier League, the pre-promoted clubs, to be honest with you, haven't exactly lit up any fireworks this season, have they? All three clubs have really struggled to adapt to be back in the Premier League. All three clubs really have struggled to compete, and all three of them really don't have the budget, don't have the money, and don't have the quality that is required to be a well-stable Premier League club. And I think Southampton, out of all three clubs, are the weakest, because I think the problem with Southampton, they kept Russell Martin on for way too long as manager. When results started going badly for Southampton and they were getting cut adrift at the bottom of the Premier League, Southampton stood by Russell Martin. They didn't really want to sack him. And the problem with that is the situation Southampton were in at the time. Southampton had no way out. Southampton didn't really act as a football club. They didn't really put the fans and supporters' views and opinions at the top of the tree. They expected Russell Martin really to go again with the squad that he had in the Championship last season, and expected that the squad he had available and the players that he already had at the football club would be able to adapt to life back in the Premier League at a click of a finger. Unfortunately, from a Southampton point of view, your football club is massively, massively naive. Your club as a whole is run badly by your owners. A club really that should not be in the Premier League, if I'm being really honest with you. Leeds United should be where you are today. And I don't think Leeds would have struggled as badly as what Southampton are now. You're bottom of the league on 6 points. We're on match day 21 of the Premier League season. We're 17 games away from this season coming to a conclusion. Southampton stood by Russell Martin when the results were still going pear-shaped. Southampton stood by a manager that wasn't at the level that was expected as a Premier League manager. The problem with the Championship, you are expected to get out of that division. You are expected to get promoted. You are expected to do well because you get these parachute payments when you get relegated from the Premier League. You get relegated, you get all this money to go again the season after in the Championship. For me, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's right. And I don't think it's correct. I think that gives a massive disadvantage to all the other clubs in the Championship. And I think it shows a lack of respect, a lack of dignity. And I think it shows quite a lot of naivety, in my view. I think Southampton, the position that they're in today, is down to how they did in the Championship. And it's not Kodu in the chat. Do you think Watford will get promoted? It's a tough question. I like the question. Do I think Watford will get promoted to the Premier League? I don't think it's going to happen this season, but I think Tom Cleverley is doing a really, really good job at Watford, considering how tough the Championship is to get in and out of. I don't think it's going to happen this season, but I think maybe season after that, Watford might be able to start competing amongst the top 2 or top 3. So in my view, I don't think it's going to happen this season for Watford fans, unfortunately. It would be nice to have a club like Watford back in the Premier League, but again, they're a very up and down football club that operate on sacking managers more than focusing on the pitch more, trying to get results and trying to get performances out of the current first team, where you keep sacking manager after manager. And for me, that's not really necessary of Watford to keep sacking the managers and then repeating a cycle because results aren't going the managers or the owner's way. It's because of the uncertainty when you get that, when Watford have had so many managers in this last 10 years. I've lost count how many managers Watford have had. So I don't think it's going to happen this season, but Tom Cleverley is doing a fantastic job. And if you're new to the channel and the live chat, please do subscribe and please hit that like button as well. But back to Southampton, I'm not surprised they did well in the Championship last season. I'm not surprised because they had that money from their parachute payments. They had that availability to go and strengthen. Southampton had the quality that was too much for a lot of those Championship clubs. And this is my big argument. If you took the parachute payments away from the relegated clubs, it would make the Championship a bit more competitive. It would make the Championship a bit more open because otherwise it becomes an up and down situation. If you look at the current Championship top 4, Burnley, Sheffield United, Leeds and Sunderland, are you really surprised all 4 of those clubs are in the position that they're in today? Realistically, are you surprised Burnley are up there? No. Are you surprised Sheffield United are up there? No. Are you surprised Leeds are up there? No. Are you surprised by Sunderland? Sunderland probably are the surprise package out of all 4 clubs. No one expected Sunderland to have the season that they had at the start, but now look at the season they're now having. They are fighting for promotion back to the Premier League. And if you look at the signing of Enzo Laffi, that's a quality signing that Sunderland have brought into their football club. That is going to be an admiration of Sunderland's levels that Sunderland are trying to get to for the long-term future. And obviously that deal becomes permanent dependent on if Sunderland do reach the Premier League again, if they do get promoted. But the problem is with the Championship, if you look at 2 out of those 4 clubs, Leeds and Burnley, no, sorry, not Leeds, Burnley and Sheffield United, realistically have got those parachute payments. This is why they're running away with the championship, because they have the money, they have those parachute payments available to them, and they're being able to splash the cash on a shitload of players because they know they're too good to compete in the championship. The level and the quality and the players that they have, it's too good for the championship for all of the rest of those clubs that are in that division. They can't compete with Burnley. They can't compete with Sheffield United. And this is my big argument. I don't want Burnley back in the Prem. I don't want Sheffield United back in the Prem because it's becoming a yo-yo situation where basically the three relegated clubs from the Prem last season are going to end up coming back up. And then the three that came up to Prem last season are going to go straight back down again. It's becoming a yo-yo situation where the three relegated clubs are being relegated straight back, and the three that got relegated are coming straight back up to the Prem. This is the problem with Southampton. When the results started going badly for them, they should have sacked Russell Martin on the spot. They should have sacked him. I don't know why Southampton's owners were that incompetent and, quite frankly, that stupid to not get rid of Russell Martin sooner rather than later. And the problem is Southampton didn't act quickly enough. And this is why Southampton are in the mess they're in today. If they would have got rid of Russell Martin sooner rather than later, Southampton wouldn't have struggled as much as they did. But if you look at that Southampton squad, there's only really 2 or 3 Premier League experienced players that have got that quality, who have got that experience, that are good enough to compete in the Prem. Armstrong, probably Walker-Peters. If you look at those two, realistically, they're Southampton's 2 best players. They are Southampton's 2 main players that you go to. And the problem with that is, if Southampton go down, which I think will be a step closer because a defeat at Old Trafford is pretty much going to nail it on, it wouldn't surprise me, again, what's going to happen next season. Southampton go down this season. They go straight back to the championship from whence they came. They go down, and the problem is the parachute payments will reactivate themselves again. They'll get that money. They'll get that budget. They'll be able to go and splash the cash on so many players that they want to improve the Southampton squad. They'll be too good for the championship, and they'll come back up again. This is a process I think has got to stop, because this is not helping the Premier League and it's not helping the Championship. Because if you look at the Premier League, it's meant to be the best division in the world. If you look at the amount of crap that the Premier League's got, Wolves, Bournemouth, Brentford, West Ham, Ipswich, Leicester, Southampton, you look at so many clubs in the Prem who aren't good enough to be in the Premier League. You look at so many of them who don't have the grounds, don't have the fans, don't have the facilities, don't have elite state art stadiums, but they have money. A lot of these clubs do have money. And the problem is, this gets called the best league in the world. It does. Apparently, it's better than half of the European divisions. I'm looking at this from a bigger point of view now. If the 3 clubs that came up go down again and the 3 that got relegated come back up, it's becoming a mockery, because the gap between the Championship and the Premier League is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. This is the big problem. When that gap keeps increasing, it's no wonder that clubs that come up to the Prem are struggling in the division, because they can't compete. They don't have the money, they don't have the budget, and they don't have the availability to go out and then splash even more money and bring in Premier League experienced players to their squad. And they're basically relying on the tools and the players that got them through the Championship to expect to go again. Unfortunately, from a Southampton point of view, your club is run shit. Your club is getting run badly by owners that probably don't give a fuck. And the problem is, they've probably set up Southampton to fail, because realistically, they probably knew Southampton were going to struggle. They probably knew that Southampton were going to be in a battle to survive, and they were probably one of the favourites to get relegated. I honestly expected, with these 3 Premier League clubs, no disrespect to the fans, no disrespect to any supporters, my view and my opinion, I expected you 3 to be a hell of a lot better than what you're producing. I honestly expected Leicester to do well. I expected Ipswich to do well again, especially after back-to-back promotions under Kieran McKenna. But for Southampton, how you gain promotion needs to be looked into, because I didn't expect Southampton to struggle as much as what I thought they did. I honestly thought this is going to be a season where the 3 promoted clubs all stay up. The problem with that is, I think at least 2 of out the 3 are going to go. And maybe Ipswich survive and escape. That is what I want to happen. And maybe Leicester do sneak out as well. That would be a bonus from the Premier League if 2 Championship clubs, realistically, who are in the Prem now, stay up out of the 3. Because in my view, you're still Championship clubs. You're not good enough to be in this division. You're not good enough to be able to compete against the top 6. Because when you have to go to the big 6 like Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester United, Villa and Tottenham, even Newcastle, that's 9 clubs I can name who you aren't going to be able to compete against. That's 9 clubs, realistically, I know you're not going to pick up results against. And the problem with Southampton, they've basically lied to their fans, they've lied to their supporters, and they've basically gotten away with it. They've got away with daylight robbery, expecting Russell Martin and his troop of players to go again, because the bounce back ability and view and the performance is going to be there. Because a lot of the problem with Southampton, they expected these players to produce what they did in the Championship. They probably thought, well, the squad's already too good enough. We've got players, we've got some Premier League experienced players in the Southampton squad, and I don't see how we struggle. I don't see how we're not going to cope. The problem is, if you look at that Southampton squad, where's your experience? Where's the quality? There isn't any Premier League player I would take out that Southampton squad. In my view, I wouldn't take a lot of them. The only player realistically that's got any potential future at the top is Tyler Dibbling. He's the only decent Southampton player in your squad. He's the youngest, but a young player like that is showing up a lot of those Southampton players, and it's making a statement saying to them, you ain't good enough. You ain't stepping up. And the pressure that is on the young player's shoulders, like Tyler Dibbling, who is getting linked now to Manchester United, which I think would be a good move for the player. I think it would be a next step in his career, and it'd be another higher level that I think Tyler Dibbling would add to Manchester United's quality that we've got already. It would make a big world of difference towards our club. But the problem is, he's in a relegation side. He's in a Southampton team that are getting shown up every week. If you're a Southampton fan and if you're a Southampton supporter, I can't see you picking up many more points. I think the gap will get so big by at least February or by at least March, you're going to go. You're going to get relegated. Relegation is going to get confirmed. And it wouldn't surprise me on Thursday. It's the final nail in Southampton's coffin, because I can't see them realistically come to Old Trafford and scaring us. I think the damage is already done. I think Southampton should have acted sooner rather than what they did. I think the manager they brought in, he's an experienced international coach. He managed the Croatian national team. He then went to Roma. How did that work out for Roma? Roma really struggled in Serie A under this coach. They really struggled. And Roma were fighting amongst the bottom 3 in Serie A. Roma were struggling. Roma ended up sacking this coach because Roma, a club like them and the stature of a club that they've always have been, they're one of Europe's great football clubs across world and global football. They shouldn't have been struggling in Serie A. Roma had to act. Roma had to do something because they knew this manager who they put all this faith and all this trust in. It didn't work. It really did not work for Southampton at all. And once Russell Martin was dismissed, the amount of managers that Southampton went through and processed that they were trying to get the number 1 manager that Southampton were looking for, realistically, from a Southampton fan point of view and from a supporter point of view, do you really trust your owners? Because if this was me, and if I was a Southampton fan, which I'm glad I'm not, because a yo-yo club like that should not be in the Premier League, no disrespect intended, but realistically, is that the manager that Southampton fans were looking for? Is that the coach everyone thought would get Southampton out of trouble? Realistically, you're in January now. Russell Martin should have been gone at the end of 2024. Why it took Southampton the time it took, I will never know. And that is because the operations from the top to the bottom of Southampton Football Club are very, very pathetic. It's very, very immature. It's a too nicey soft approach. Southampton expected Russell Martin to do well, and they didn't really want to get rid of him. For me, I expected Southampton to hang on to Russell Martin. I didn't expect Southampton really to even want to consider sacking him, because look how long it took to get rid. Look how long it took for Southampton to shift him out their football club. Because I don't think Southampton, in my view, had a number one option. I don't think Southampton really knew who they wanted to get to replace Russell Martin, because they didn't do any managerial search properly to the best way possible that Southampton should have did. And they have taken a huge gamble again. They've taken a huge risk again. And if you go down, which is going to be nailed on, it's going to happen, Southampton fans need to be prepared for relegation again. I'm not surprised by the fans' criticism. I'm not surprised by the supporters' criticism of that football club, because on and off the pitch, you are a joke. On and off the pitch, Southampton have become that bad that your results now are being echoed out by boos on the pitch. And I absolutely respect that. I respect those Southampton fans for expressing their view, opinion, and their voice, because a lot of football clubs don't like the truth, they don't like the honesty, and they don't like the voice of the fans and supporters. It is all about money driven, getting brought into the football club. And the problem is, Southampton fans didn't get listened to. They did not get their answer. They didn't get the response, because it was taking Southampton so long to get rid of this manager. Look at the mess you're in. Look at the problems you've got. And if you go down again, you're going to end up sacking this manager. You're going to end up sacking this coach. I can't see you realistically picking up many more points for the rest of the season. You're on 6 points from 21 games. 6 points. There's about 18 to 17 games left. You're up there for breaking records that Derby County did way back in 2007. I was only 11 at the time. I was only 11 when Derby were in the Premier League. Look at the records then. The records speak for themselves. Derby County were in exactly the same spot that you are in now. And Derby were breaking record after record of how bad they were as a football club. They went down as the worst ever Premier League club to be in the Premier League ever. That's written in the record books. That's written in the history books. Derby went down as one of the worst clubs ever to be in the Premier League. Southampton are trundling along to that Derby record, because you're going to end up eclipsing what Derby County did. Because I think Derby County in that season picked up 7 points. It was either 7 or 11 points Derby picked up in that season. I'm not 100% sure if that's correct, but I think Derby only picked up about 7 to 11 points that season. Southampton are on 6 points. You've got 17 cup finals to save your season. By match day 21, when you come to Old Trafford on Thursday, I think the Southampton fans and supporters know the doom is going to happen. The relegation is going to get confirmed by at least February, in my view. I think if Southampton lose the rest of their games to January and they don't pick much up at the start of February, Southampton could face the ultimate embarrassment of being the earliest Premier League club ever to be relegated. That is not a record I think Southampton fans and supporters want to be linked with. And this is the big problem. You're doing what Derby County did. Remember when Derby were in the Prem? They weren't ready. They weren't prepared. And Billy Davies was the Derby manager way back when, in 2007. They won the playoff final, which no one expected. No one expected a club like Derby County to ever get to the Premier League. No one expected. We've seen so many unexpected clubs in the Premier League, to Blackpool, to Cardiff, to Swansea, to Huddersfield. You can name so many clubs that have come up to the Premier League and have done better than what Southampton have done. And the problem is, the record will get eclipsed. The record will get broke. Southampton, I'm afraid to say, you are good as down. It's a horrible feeling. Relegation, I can't imagine what that must feel like. I can't imagine what that pain and that anguish feels inside the heart. It must be the most horrific feeling in the world. But the problem is, when Derby weren't ready, look what happened. They didn't bring in experienced Premier League players. They didn't have the squad. They didn't have the quality. And when they went up, it's meant to be the richest game in world football. Where did that money go from a Derby County's perspective? Where was that money that they achieved when they got promoted to the Premier League? Where did that money go? Because it didn't get invested on the team. It didn't get invested on a lot of new players. And Derby were found out so quickly. And by March, they were good as gone. They were done. They were relegated officially. So that R next to Southampton's name is coming very, very quickly. And, it may be a good thing for Southampton fans to realise that maybe relegation is the only way back to getting the club back on side of the fans and the supporters. But I don't think your owners really give a shit. I think you're in the same situation with us. We are being run badly off the pitch. We are being run badly on the pitch, and our owners basically take every bit of money out of our football club. And they don't invest, they don't rebuild, they don't add any quality, and they're expecting every new manager that walks into Old Trafford to carry on with the same bang average squad and the same old mess that was left by previous managers before, and are expected to keep repeating the cycle. This is the same boat Southampton Football Club are in. If you go down, a lot of those players are going to be playing again for you next season. A lot of those players you've got in the Premier League now are going to be there next season. The problem is, a lot of those players think they are ready for full-time Premier League football. Southampton will have to sell. Southampton will have to let go of a lot of their good players. And I've got sympathy for you, because when you lose your best players, it's always heartbreaking. It is devastating, but it's the reality of being a relegated club. You've got to keep rebuilding and rebuilding and rebuilding and repeat the cycle when you keep going up, going down, going up, going down, going up, going down. I mean, some of these clubs jump down more than bloody Tigger from fucking Winnie the Pooh. Like, the amount of up and down clubs I'm seeing from divisions now is laughable. It's becoming an absolute mockery of English League football. There needs to be a complete restructure. There needs to be a completely new way of money being operated on and off the pitch between every Football League club. And there needs to be a way that fans and supporters are allowed to get more involved on and off the field commitments for the football clubs that everybody loves and supports with all their hearts. Southampton, it's too late. The damage is there. The reality is there. The record speaks for himself. The points you're on says a lot about the way Southampton's season has been. I mean, for Russell Martin, I think he probably knew he can only do what he could. I think Russell Martin was probably be stuck between a rock and a hard place. And maybe he didn't get the money he wanted. Maybe he didn't get the backing he felt he deserved off the Southampton owners, especially to get them promoted. And to win that playoff final, I didn't want Southampton coming up. I did not want Southampton back in the Premier League, because I knew you weren't good enough. I knew you weren't going to be able to compete. I knew from the start you're going straight back down. That playoff final was jinxed. Winning that playoff final was nothing more than luck. You had luck on your day. You had luck rising and shining above you from the sun to basically realise today's going to be an unlikely day that we achieve promotion back to the Premier League. And that day happened, and you've got to celebrate. It's always a beautiful moment when a club gets promoted to Premier League, don't get me wrong. But the reality check hits you. It's the reality of, we are going to be in trouble again. This time next season, we're going to be back in the Championship. And it is heading that way. It is heading that way for Southampton. And I think maybe, especially what happened in the Emirates FA Cup third round yesterday, Manchester United might be knackered. We might be absolutely shattered. We're probably going to be very, very fatigued and tired come Thursday. So Southampton might come to Old Trafford and get an unlikely result. They might come and get a win. They might snatch a point. But I think from a Southampton point of view, if you've got a lot of these big six clubs away from home in your next few fixtures, I think you need to start looking at your fixture thinking, well, we're not going to win this. We're not going to get anything there. We might get something there. We probably ain't going to get anything anywhere near where we want to be. But relegation for you is probably the best bet for Southampton to go again. But what I don't want to happen for your club is that you go down, you do well, under a new manager, because I don't think this manager is going to work for you. I think Southampton have made a massive, massive mistake bringing this manager in. From my point of view, it's a gamble, it's a mistake. Southampton should have brought a Premier League experienced manager into the football club. This is where Southampton have gone so badly wrong. They have put in a lack of an experienced manager who doesn't know the Premier League, doesn't know the level, doesn't know the quality, and he's an international coach that got sacked by Croatia. Went to Roma, got sacked. Has come to Southampton. You know where I'm going to go with this. It's going to end up getting sacked. Southampton are doomed. I can't see them coming to Old Trafford and doing anything. I think the fear and the reality is, I think some of those Southampton's mindsets have gone. I think the only future you've got, if you can keep hold of Tyler Dibbling, which is a major, major problem that I think you're probably going to lose him to a bigger and better club than yourselves. No, again, no disrespect. But Tyler Dibbling, a young player like that who's got the potential and the quality to hit the heavy heights of professional, world, elite European football, he's going to look at this and think, I need to get out of this. I need to jump ship come the end of the season, because I don't want to be a player who's got a relegation confirmed in his career. That is damaging to young players, especially some of the experienced players, because it's one of those last ever paydays as a Premier League player. It might not ever happen again from a Southampton point of view that a lot of those players will ever play for your club again. But I think if you can keep hold of players like Tyler Dibbling and build a young, hungrier squad with a lot more younger players coming through the system, Southampton might be able to build and mould that team into a proper Premier League stable club, because you've got the players of younger and more younger squad with younger players coming through that are going to fit the system of whoever manages Southampton come the end of the season, because this manager isn't going to work for you. He's going to end up getting himself sacked, I think, way before the end of the season, because I think if Southampton don't pick up, like I said, results by middle February, relegation is going to be confirmed. And the reality is, I think a lot of Southampton fans and supporters will turn away for the rest of the season and say, do you know what? This is the reality. We've gone down. We've got relegated. We're back in the Championship. Life goes again. And again, you are playing an extra 8 games in the Championship. You're playing 46 instead of 38. You've also got a situation where if you're in the playoffs, you play 2 legs in the semi-finals and then potentially a playoff final. So that's another 3 games on top of that. So you're basically playing 11 more games in the Championship compared to what you are in the Premier League. So you've got a 49-game situation in the Championship and you've got a 38-game situation in the Premier League. And if you don't pick points at home, you're going to struggle. And especially away from home where you're pretty much beaten on the day, you know the outcome. You know reality is going to bite. You are unfortunately going to get found out. And that is Southampton's problem. You would have thought their home record would have improved. You would have thought their home stature would have given them an extra advantage, an extra boost of motivation and confidence that if they can have a good, strong home record, they can then build on their results there at St Mary's and then take and build on the away form. But again, the reality is for Southampton, you're coming up against a big lot. Where are you going to go to Anfield and get anything? Old Trafford, the Etihad, the Tottenham Stadium, the Emirates, Stamford Bridge, Villa Park, St James's Park. Are you really going to go to those clubs and pick anything up, realistically? Your home form is your best bet as a promoted club. And when you're getting beaten at home, as well as away from home, you are going to struggle to get anything. You will struggle. And again, that is down to probably the recruitment at Southampton has been nowhere near the level. And you've got to question, I think the big talking point here is, where's the money gone from the promotion? Where's their money gone? Where's all that money, which is meant to be the richest game in English League football, to get back to the Premier League? It's meant to be the richest game in world football. Where has the money gone? From a Southampton point of view, you've got to question, where's the money? You've got to question, why has money not been spent? And why have we gone with the same squad as last season? Because that squad, if you look at it, if Tyler Dibbling goes, Armstrong and Walker-Peters, if you look at the rest of the Southampton squad, where is your quality? Where's the players that you're going to be able to rely on for the future? Where are those players that are going to step up to the plate? I'm sorry to say, you ain't got any. You ain't got any. And the Southampton board ignored that. Southampton's owners basically said to Russell Martin, you go again. Don't expect much money. This money is going to have to help towards the club, not towards the first team or the players that you need. We need to put the money in the club. The problem is, it's good. It's in hindsight, it's good old saying that the money's going into the club, but if the money is the big factor again, and Russell Martin has basically had two hands tied behind his back, it's no wonder he then got sacked. He probably thought this squad isn't good enough to go again. These players will not be good enough to compete in the Prem. Will get found out. And he probably knew there was a lack of experience, there was a lack of quality in that team. That Southampton, okay, you've got the players to do the damage in the Championship. You've got the quality to be able to overcome a lot of these bang average Championship teams, because there's a lot of crap in that division as well. Like, there is a lot of clubs who are in their leagues now that are simply not at the level that they need to be in that league. I'm sorry. A lot of those clubs aren't good enough. I've got respect. I respect fans who support these clubs. But come on, the division you're in, you've got to have a big reality check and a mind reset. If you're in that division and you basically know, well, we've got the players, I think, to do the damage, then yeah, good for you. I mean, the Championship is tough. Of course it is. It's the toughest league in league football to get out of. And even to survive in, it's a 46-game season, potentially 49 with the playoffs and the playoff final included. So, you know, you've got to think in hindsight. You've got to realise that, yeah, it's all right saying we've got the players to do it in the Championship and we're battering everyone we play, but you're in the Championship. A lot of those clubs can't compete against your money you've got. You've got these parachute payments, which I think's wrong, because you're basically cheating. You're basically getting one over a lot more of these clubs who dream to be in the Premier League, who want to be in the best division in the world, who want to be a Premier League full-time club. And when they come up against you, the damage is done. That they know, a lot of those players in rival teams know that we got no chance, because the quality is there from the Premier League last season, and they're bringing that quality to the Championship. And the problem, this is the reality at Southampton. You're in the Premier League now. A lot of that quality from the Premier League, because you've had a season in the top division, you're going to go to back to the Championship with that experience, and you're going to smash everyone around you again. And then you're going to come up to the Prem. You've been playing in the Championship. The reality is, you're going to be fighting amongst the bottom three relegation places again. And then you're going to go back down again, come back up, go down again, come back up. The damage is done. The reality is, for Southampton, you're going to have to take it on the chin. This has been a bad season. You've been let down by your owners. You've been let down by your football club. You've been lied to. You've been manipulated to. You've been brainwashed. And unfortunately, those owners you've got don't give a fuck. The board don't have a clue how to operate. And the squad you've got, I'm afraid to say, is a mid-table Championship squad. Realistically, it's a mid-table Championship squad. And a lot of the players you've got now will not be in Southampton shirts next season, because Premier League clubs are going to come calling for them. Tyler Diblin is one of the main assets you've got in your squad. For me, I fully expect him to become a Manchester United player in the summer. I would love him at Manchester United. I think he would offer something different, younger and hungrier potential to grow into a world-class player. He is Southampton's asset that they've got. He's mainly their main asset that they can get any money from. And when you had Russell Martin in charge, and there was rumours of United putting in a 21 million bid for Tyler Diblin, Russell Martin came out of the cheeky quote, I wouldn't even give 21 million for Tyler Diblin's left foot. Like, I'm afraid to say, Southampton are going to have to sell a lot of these players at a loss in the Championship. A lot of these players are going to have to be sold at a loss. They're going to have to take whatever they can get from them, because Southampton will have no right demanding 20, 30 million plus for any of their players, because their value is going to decrease because they're in a lower league. And a lot of those, and the Southampton are going to have to accept low-balling offers for their players, because they will need the money to go again in the Championship with. So I expect a player like Tyler Diblin to go very cheap. I would say to Southampton, take what you can get. But if you think you're going to get 20 plus for him, you ain't got no chance, because you're in the Championship. You're not in the Premier League anymore. Tyler Diblin is better than Southampton. He's a bigger and better player than the football club. Like, I would never say a player is bigger or better than the badge, the shirt, or the club itself. But realistically, you've got to look at the situation now. Tyler Diblin needs to look at his future. Carl Walker-Peters, Armstrong. There's so many players in that Southampton team that have got question marks all over them. And the problem is, I think the players' mindsets have gone. I think their heads have gone. You can quite clearly see that the morale, the confidence of that Southampton team is completely shot. And I think for me, they didn't expect this type of manager to come in. I think the players are probably shocked by it. I would probably say, really, they needed a Premier League experienced manager, and there was plenty available. They could have got Erik ten Hag. Like, that would have been an absolute story in the making. I mean, maybe they should have went for the Manchester United manager Erik ten Hag, because he had that experience, he had that nature of a Premier League manager, and he probably might have done a good job. But Southampton decided to gamble on a manager that could only manage at international level the most, and got sacked by his last two previous jobs. And Southampton have gambled. And that gamble has not paid off. The gamble for Southampton has not paid off. And unfortunately, the reality is the Premier League is a tough place to be. And, for Southampton, like, a club like you need to be a Premier League club. Like, you should be a stable club in this league. You should be a stable club in this division. You should be able to go again and compete. And the reality is, it's bitten you very hard on the bum cheeks, and those bites have left marks. It's left sores, and it isn't healing. And the damage is already there. The players have clearly given up. The white flag has been waved so many times by those Southampton players, and it's by some of the results. I think the most damaging one is when, in the last few Premier League games, they lost 5-0 to Tottenham, and they were 5-0 down at half-time. And the fans were gone. The supporters were gone. That was the day of Russell Martin, day after they sacked him. And look how long it took him to bring a manager. They didn't act quickly. It took a long period of time for Southampton to bring a replacement in. That was the day of Southampton's demise. That 5-0 defeat at home, especially when you've conceded all 5 goals in the first half. I'm surprised it didn't. I'm surprised it wasn't in double digits. I think the Tottenham players probably felt sorry for Southampton, that Tottenham didn't really need to go and bang 8-9 goals in. They felt that the 5-0 result was enough, and they could rotate and change half their players. They did at halftime at St Mary's. Like, the damage was done from a Southampton point of view. There was no coming back. So that was probably, for me, the ultimate day of Southampton's demise. That result basically buried Southampton's chances. The survival rate is very, very glim for them. Relegation, I think, will be confirmed by Thursday. I think results go against them, and if Southampton lose, which I'm hoping we beat them, but Manchester United did have to play extra time yesterday. We did have to play 120 minutes of football. We end up having to go to penalties, because that's another 10 to 15 minutes on top of that. So we basically played 135 minutes of football yesterday. And that might show a lot of fatigue. It might show a lot of tiredness. And we're probably going to have to be quite brave on Thursday, because we will have quite a few players unavailable. Obviously, Delo has picked up a suspension from yesterday. So that's the only really absentee that we've got from Thursday's squad, and depending on how we line up and who we go with. Delo's really the only player Man United have got unavailable. I probably would expect Amram to go with the 11 players he picked yesterday. The only changes I would make, in my view, I mean, I didn't know Maguire had been ill for 2 days in bed in a row, ill. So I probably would expect Yoro to come in, because Maguire's fitness and health hasn't been there, especially when you find out that he has been ill and in bed the last 2 days. I'm surprised Maguire played yesterday, but Maguire wanted to play. So I'd probably rest Maguire, bring Yoro in. I think, really, apart from that, there's not really a lot more that Ruben Amorim can go with, really. I think he's got what he's got at the moment. And I think a lot of the options he had on the bench yesterday will probably be on the bench again on Thursday. And I would still expect a comfortable Manchester United win. I think the Southampton players are going to come to Old Trafford knowing they're not going to get anything. I think them trying to get a result, they basically know that isn't going to happen. And I think, they've got into a mindset where they're going to go to these top 6 clubs away from home. They know, forget it. It's done. They're going to go out there already thinking they're beat. And I think that's the mindset now. The Southampton players know the damage is done. They know relegation's coming. It's just a matter of when, not if. And, where do you expect Southampton to get results? I think for Southampton fans, I think you'd rather end the season now. So I am fully expecting a comprehensive, big win for Manchester United. You never know. We might see another 8 or 9-0 result. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I would love to have an 8 or 9-0 win in favour of Manchester United on Thursday. That would be a great start in the middle of this week, and it would give a positive direction in terms of the goal difference that we need, and we need to climb up the Premier League table. We're not going to turn this Premier League season around. We know the season's basically over in the league. We know the Premier League, we can't really get top 10. The European places are probably going to be fully compacted by the end of the season. So we know the league campaign's done. We're going to finish in our lowest ever league position, which is going to be majorly embarrassing. And we're relying on the FA Cup and we are relying on the Europa League. I think if we're in the latter stage of the FA Cup semi-finals and we're in the semi-finals of the Europa League, if we can get both to those finals and win both trophies, we've guaranteed a spot in the Europa League. And if we win in the FA Cup, if we win that, and if we win the Europa League, we're guaranteed a spot in the Champions League. So it might paper over a lot of the cracks that we've seen from Manchester United this season in terms of on and off the pitch field matters that have affected mentally and physically the fans and supporters. We've been through a lot this season. Thank God there's only 4 months left. I mean, thank God this season's going to come to an end very quickly. And I think the priority is now, if we're in the latter stage of those competitions, Ruben Amorim will be able to rotate and rest a lot of his key players, knowing if we're in the latter stage of the FA Cup and if we're in the latter stage of the Europa League. But that's all got to come to fruition first before any of that happens. We can't dream too ahead of ourselves yet. We just got to focus on one game at a time now. I think put a comprehensive and damaging win for Manchester United against Southampton. Let's go and absolutely bury them. We know they're going to get relegated. We know they're going to go down. And I think we'll probably try and rub salt into the wounds of their fans and supporters by putting at least 6, 7, 8 or 9 past them. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I don't know what the squad is going to feel like come Thursday, especially those 135 minutes yesterday. So I don't know how the squad's shaping up. I don't know if Ruben Amorim will have to rotate quite a lot because I don't know if that squad's going to be fully fit to go again. So all I can say is let's see what happens on Thursday night come the full-time whistle from Old Trafford. I'm going to go really high here. I'm going to go for an 8 or 9-0 win. I've got that confidence and the belief that we could absolutely bury Southampton. And I think we could get the game done at half-time. If we can do what Tottenham did to Southampton St Mary's, where they were 5-0 down at half-time, Ruben Amorim will be then able to freshen the team up in the second half, make a shitload of changes, freshen the team, freshen the players, and it gives everyone an opportunity for some first-team football come Thursday night. That's the situation I hope we're in, but I'm going to go for an 8 or 9-0 win. That's been optimistic. That's been hopeful. That's been a bit over-ambitious, maybe some would say, but I feel confident that we can put a comprehensive win in and a comprehensive result because we will want to put on performance, we'll want to put on a show, and we'll want to show what we can do to this relegation-bound Southampton team at Old Trafford. And I think the fans deserve it. I think the supporters deserve it because it's been a good last 2 games. And we want to carry on that form. We want to carry on with that confidence and belief we've now got. And like I say, let's see what happens come the full-time whistle from Old Trafford on Thursday night when we do our full-time reaction. So remember to please hit the like button, the share button. Please keep subscribing to the channel, United Red Devil 20 on YouTube. Share the video, hit the tweet button, hit the retweet button. Remember to always remember the notification bell. Put that bell on at all times so you receive dedicated content that we have got planned for all of you amazing people out there on this channel, on this community. You know where we all are. Please subscribe, put the notification bell on. We've got brand new videos. We've got brand new shorts. We've got brand new live streams planned for the rest of 2025 this year. I want to get all of you more involved as well on the live content as well. We're bringing in some brand new games like Minecraft, Pool Blitz, Snooker Blitz. We've got plenty of brand new games planned. That is thanks to my mate. He was an absolute legend in Jordan. You know who he is. He's an absolute fucking legend. legend of a brother, legend of a family, legend of a best mate. And yeah, plenty more content planned. And also, like I said, please join me for the full-time reaction from Old Trafford once that full-time whistle goes on Thursday night in the Premier League. Enjoy your Monday evening. Stay safe, be nice, and be kind to each other. You're all legends. You're all legendary. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys all on the next one.